Well, you'll be glad to know that there are visual aids with this sermon this evening. So I'll talk less and you can read more. It's marvellous. The reading today, to my mind, covered 2 points which overlap. Firstly, and what we're talking about today, unity. Christ clearly says that if a group, organisation or entity is divided amongst itself, it will fail. So clearly he felt that unity was important. Then he goes on to make what is a very bold statement, really. He says, whoever does the will of God is my brother, sister, mother. I mean, we here have often spoken about how we are the children of God. But Christ here actually spells it out. Then I was thinking, but if we're all as God made us, doesn't that mean that we're all doing God's will? Therefore, we're all Christ's brothers and sisters and mothers. Maybe we're on the right track after all. So I'm going to take Christ's bold statement, and in my own words, I'm going to echo it. Because plagiarism is not dead. Every person, whether they realise it or not, is a child of God, and is loved as such for being who they are. That is just how I read his statement. Now, I guess that is a sort of unity, isn't it? If we're all children of God, that's a unifying concept. The dictionary definition of unity, and we always have to do a definition, says a state of being one, or in fewer words, oneness. That just seemed to complicate things for me, though. I thought I knew what unity meant, but when I actually tried to describe it, I became more confused. So I did what I usually do when totally flummoxed. I turned to my wife. No, I didn't. I turned to Google. And I searched it. And I searched quotes about unity, thinking that maybe some of the greatest minds in our history could guide me to a greater understanding. What I found was that a number of authors had quotes which seemed to be talking about unity. First slide. J.K. Rowling, a favourite of many people. Her quote was, "We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided." From, I believe, The Goblet of Fire. Yes. That makes sense. But it reminded me of something else I'd heard. We can have the next slide. Yes, Alexander Dumas, The Three Musketeers. All for one and one for all. United we stand, divided we fall. Those crazy musketeers. Marvellous. But clearly both of these people, although some time apart, had the same viewpoint on unity. What it meant. And the way I read it, it means having each other's backs. Supporting each other. Then there is this absolutely legendary vision of unity and peace. The late great Bob Marley. One love, one heart. Words that continue to touch people long after he is gone. Let's get together and feel all right. Sounds good to me. So now we have having each other's backs, sharing one love, one heart, and getting together. All good stuff. So finally I'm thinking, I'm starting to get a handle on this unity thing. Then I saw this next quote. Grab the next slide. And I had to include it because my wife loves gardening and gardening analogies. And to me it says a lot about diversity and inclusivity. In case you don't know, Kemi Sogunle is a current author of relationship type books. And I think she really hits the spot with this quote. Different plants thrive together in a well-nurtured garden. Just as they thrive, they pass on a message to mankind. God created us all to thrive with one another and planted love in our hearts for this reason. Let's learn to embrace each other, knowing love is all we have to keep us growing and going. So now we have having each other's backs, sharing one heart and love, getting together and feeling all right. Diversity, inclusivity, God and gardening. At this point, the world begins to spin a bit for me, as I try to relate all of these things into a single coherent thought or idea. The quote also mentions growth, but As Sarah Barber will be talking about that next week, I thought I'd steer well clear of that today. So can this concept of unity be squeezed into one simple thought, one coherent phrase, or a single idea? Probably not. Because unity means so many different things to so many different people. For me, though, the person who comes closest to my idea of unity is a lady who was born in 1810. She was born Sarah Margaret Fuller Ossolli, but was best known as Margaret Fuller. She was a journalist, a critic, and a women's rights activist in America. Her book, Woman in the 19th Century, which was cutting edge at that time, is widely considered to be the first feminist work in the States. Her quote on unity, "Harmony exists no less in difference than in likeness, if only the same key note govern both parts," for me kind of echoes my own thoughts on the subject. That true unity is achieved by encompassing or interweaving diverse elements into a coherent whole. That it is our diversity that unites us and makes us stronger, makes us whole, and gives us life to the full, as promised by God. God created such a hugely diverse world, yet it all works together. Well, more so in nature, I guess. Perhaps it is only our ideas, our individualistic wants and needs, our separatist thoughts, that scupper true unity. All I know is that there are way more things that unite us than divide us, that diversity brings joy. It brings new thoughts, it brings new knowledge, new wisdom, and maybe even new faith. God made each and every one of us different and loves those differences, delights in those differences, and I, for one, see great hope in those differences. And I just want to leave you with this final slide and one last quote, which really spoke to me and just seemed to fit perfectly, not only into the theme, but at this particular part of the service, as we will go into prayers and communion. Thomas Merton was a Trappist monk and a mystic, and this quote for me really describes how I feel in this part of our service. The deepest level of communication is not communication, but communion. It is wordless, beyond speech, beyond concept. Thank you.